So you want to own a casino? Sounds almost unfair, right? A customer walks through your door knowing the games are mathematically designed in your favor. He might win tonight. He might even win $1 million. But keep enough people playing for long enough, and the math eventually leans toward you. Every spin, every hand. Every roll of the dice is another tiny transaction built around an advantage you already own. Few businesses get to start with that. A restaurant does not know whether the next customer will be profitable. A retailer can buy inventory nobody wants. A casino can calculate the expected economics of the game before the customer even sits down. So this should be one of the safest businesses on earth. Except a casino resort called Revel cost roughly $2.4 billion to build in Atlantic City. It opened in 2012. A little more than 2 years later, it was closed. The roulette wheels still had a house edge. The slot machines still worked. The probability tables had not changed. What failed was everything around them. And that is the contradiction at the center of casino ownership. The games may be designed to favor the house, but the owner still has to pay for the house. By the end of this, that difference will explain almost everything. Walk into a giant Las Vegas resort and your eyes naturally go toward the casino. Floor, lights, tables, machines, chips, roulette ball bouncing between numbers. It feels obvious that this is where the business lives. Financially, that picture is badly incomplete. In fiscal year 2025, 51 large gaming licensees on the Las Vegas Strip generated roughly $21.1 billion in total revenue. Gaming produced about $5.5 billion, roughly 26%. Rooms produced around $7.1 billion. Food added roughly $4 billion. Beverage contributed another $1.6 billion. Other revenue added almost $2.9 billion more. Nearly 3/4 of the money came from something other than gambling. That changes the entire mental model. A modern casino resort is a hotel, restaurant group, entertainment venue, bar business, retail complex, and gambling operation sharing one enormous property. The casino floor creates gravity. Everything around it tries to capture spending. A guest comes for blackjack and books a room. Another comes for a concert and buys dinner. Another attends a convention and never places a single bet. All three can be valuable. The glamorous casino floor gets the attention. The owner has to make the entire building earn. Casino games do not work because customers lose every time. If they did, the experience would be miserable and short. The product works because winning remains possible while the payout structure leaves a small mathematical advantage with the operator. Take roulette. The casino has no idea where the next spin will land. Over 10 spins, the customer may do extremely well. Over a very large number of wagers, the house edge has more opportunities to appear. This is why volume matters so much. A casino does not need every player to lose. It needs enough bets happening across enough time. That is an unusually attractive economic engine, because the underlying advantage can be estimated before the night begins. But notice the boundary of what that mathematics can tell you. It can estimate the economics of wagers. It says nothing about whether the resort costs too much to build, nothing about whether the hotel is half empty, nothing about whether interest expense is crushing the company, nothing about whether another casino opened closer to the customer. The probability table describes the game. Ownership introduces an entirely different set of variables, and the casino floor is designed to make one of those variables as large as possible. The number of wagers. Imagine 2 customers. One sits at a blackjack table. The casino needs cards, chips, surveillance, and a dealer. The other sits in front of a slot machine. The machine can process wager after wager without a dedicated employee dealing every round. Multiply that across hundreds or thousands of positions, and the operational appeal becomes obvious. Slot machines combine automation, speed, and scale. A customer can keep playing without waiting for an entire table to finish a hand. The machine turns time into repeated wagering activity with very little labor attached to each individual bet. Table games still matter. They create atmosphere. They attract premium players. They help define the property. But slots reveal the owner's operating logic more clearly. How much productive gaming activity can this floor generate per square foot, per employee, and per hour? That is the question hiding behind all the lights. And there is a brutal answer when nobody is sitting in the chair: 0. $1 million. Collection of gaming equipment cannot manufacture traffic. The casino's most valuable input walks through the front door on 2 legs, which means the next problem is not probability at all. It is customer acquisition. The house edge only matters after someone chooses your property. Las Vegas welcomed roughly 38.5 million visitors in 2025, and every large resort wants a piece of that spending. So competition starts long before the blackjack table. It starts with a room rate on a booking site, a concert announcement, a restaurant reservation, a pool party, a convention package, loyalty points, a casino host calling a customer who has not visited in 3 months. The casino companies are competing to create the trip itself, and that can get expensive. A valuable customer may be offered a discounted room, dinner, drinks, or show tickets, because the property expects the entire visit to be worth more than those benefits cost. This is where casino economics begins to resemble airlines, hotels, and credit card rewards. The game may have a mathematical edge. The customer still has to be acquired, retained, and brought back. Your competitor understands the same roulette probabilities you do. They can install the same class of slot machines. They can hire dealers. The differentiation happens around the game, brand, location, rooms, entertainment, service, loyalty. Those who casino cannot change the mathematics very much. It can change who chooses to play there. Suppose one of your rooms is listed for $400 tonight. At 10 o'clock, it is still empty. The retail price is $400. The economic cost of putting one additional guest into that room is not necessarily $400. The room already exists. Much of the building cost has already been incurred. If a player is expected to generate enough valuable activity during the visit, giving up the room revenue can make perfect sense. Now the comp system becomes easier to understand. Free dinner, discounted suite, show tickets, drinks. They are not acts of generosity. They are marketing expenditures delivered inside the property. The interesting part is how the casino decides who deserves them. It can look at how someone plays, the size of the wagers, the duration of play, and the expected value of that activity. That creates a much more sophisticated customer model than simply asking who lost the most money last night. A player who happened to win can still be valuable. A player who lost can still be expensive to serve. The comp only works when the expected relationship is worth more than the benefit. That is why complementary expenses running into enormous sums do not automatically represent waste. They are part of the acquisition machine. But they introduce another problem. Expected value unfolds over time. Cash can move violently in a single evening. Now picture a high roller, not someone placing $20 bets, someone wagering sums large enough that one evening can materially affect the property's table game results. The casino may still have the mathematical advantage. That does not prevent the customer from winning millions tonight. This is where the smooth probability curve collides with the way businesses actually live. Companies do not report results over an infinite number of bets. They report quarterly. Payroll arrives constantly. Interest arrives on schedule. So a casino can be statistically comfortable over the long run and financially uncomfortable over the short run. Table game hold fluctuates. A handful of enormous players can push results around. The casino wants their volume because huge wagering activity gives the house edge more opportunity to work. At the same time, concentrated volume increases short-term volatility. That makes high rollers valuable in a completely different way from ordinary loyalty customers. They do not primarily demonstrate customer retention. They demonstrate timing risk. Probability may be on your side. The calendar is not obligated to wait for probability to prove itself. And while the casino is managing that volatility downstairs, another part of the building may be producing a much steadier stream of revenue upstairs. On the Las Vegas Strip, rooms generated more total revenue than gaming in fiscal year 2025. That one fact changes how I look at the entire property. A hotel room can be sold tonight and then sold again tomorrow. A guest does not need to gamble heavily to be economically useful. Imagine a couple arriving for a concert. They book 2 nights. They eat at the property twice. They buy drinks. Maybe they shop. Maybe they spend an hour in the casino. Maybe they do not. Now imagine thousands of convention visitors doing something similar. The resort has created customers who were not acquired primarily through gambling at all. This is why the largest properties are better understood as integrated resorts. Different apartments attract different reasons to visit. The casino creates one kind of demand. Entertainment creates another. Conventions create another. Food, nightlife, and luxury rooms extract value from the traffic once it arrives. Diversification can stabilize the property because a guest who does not gamble can still spend. But diversification also means you have built several expensive businesses at once. A hotel with thousands of rooms, restaurants, bars, pools, venues, gaming space, staff for all of them. The customer sees variety. The owner sees fixed costs multiplying. And now we get to the number that makes the entire industry look different. Start with roughly $21.1 billion in revenue across those 51 major strip licensees. Put that number on the table, and it looks enormous. Now start subtracting. Roughly $2.2 billion goes to interest expense alone. More than $500 million disappears through building depreciation. Other depreciation and amortization exceeds another $1.1 billion. Then payroll, benefits, payroll, taxes, energy, utilities, advertising, entertainment expenses, property costs, rent, taxes, maintenance. Layer after layer, the enormous top line gets carved down. And after all of that, the combined net income before federals, income taxes, and extraordinary items was roughly $154 million, $21.1 billion at the top, roughly $154 million near the bottom, less than 1%. Now, that aggregate number needs context. Different properties have very different economics, and accounting income does not capture every way an owner evaluates a resort. But as a picture of operating intensity, it is extraordinary. The customers can lose exactly as the probability tables predict, and the owner can still watch most of the revenue disappear into the cost of owning the property. This is where the phrase, "the house always wins," finally stops being useful. The house edge belongs to the game. The debt, payroll, and buildings belong to the owner. Now return to the $2.4 billion resort from the opening. Revel was huge, modern, and ambitious. Its gaming products did not need to invent new mathematics. Blackjack still had an edge. Roulette still had an edge. Slots still had their expected economics. Yet the property opened into an Atlantic City market that had already begun losing part of its geographic advantage. More gambling options had appeared in surrounding states. Customers who once had fewer choices no longer needed to travel as far. At the same time, Revel had to support an enormous physical operation. Hotel rooms, restaurants, staff, utilities, maintenance, financing. The property entered bankruptcy, continued struggling, and eventually closed in 2014, little more than 2 years after opening. That failure is useful because it isolates the real risk. Revel did not need customers to beat the casino games in order to lose. It simply needed too few customers to support what had been built. The probability engine could be working perfectly while the capital structure failed around it. That is one of the hardest lessons in ownership. A good unit economics engine cannot rescue an asset whose scale is wrong for the demand. There was a time when part of the casino business model was simple geography. Legal gambling existed in relatively few places. If you wanted the experience, you traveled to one of them. Scarcity on the map created power. Las Vegas built an extraordinary destination around it. Atlantic City benefited from it for years. Then the map changed. More jurisdictions legalized casinos. Sports betting expanded. Parts of gambling moved onto phones. A customer who once needed to drive several hours could suddenly find an alternative much closer to home. That shift does not automatically destroy destination casinos. It changes what they have to sell. If access to a wager becomes common, the wager itself becomes less distinctive. Las Vegas responds by selling things an app cannot deliver. Thousands of hotel rooms, shows, restaurants, nightclubs, conventions, pools, spectacle. A weekend that feels like a destination rather than a transaction. This is why the growth of non-gaming revenue fits the larger story. The industry is protecting itself from the commoditization of gambling by making the place harder to copy than the game. A blackjack table is easy to reproduce. The Strip is not. Every legal casino operates with another stakeholder whose economics matter whether the floor is busy or empty. The government. In Nevada, large non-restricted gaming licensees pay a monthly percentage, a fee based on gross gaming revenue, with the highest rate at 6.75%, above the applicable threshold. Then come licensing rules, suitability reviews, gaming controls, surveillance requirements, and a large compliance infrastructure. In the United States, qualifying casinos also operate under major anti-money laundering obligations because they handle significant financial activity in cash. The visible result is almost nothing. No customer walks into a casino because the suspicious activity reporting system is excellent. Compliance does not sell a hotel room. It does not produce a jackpot, but it keeps the license alive. That makes it one of those costs that exists because the business is allowed to exist at all. The contrast is useful. On the floor, every light is trying to create activity. Behind the floor, an entire system is designed to document and control that activity. Both are essential. One earns revenue. The other protects the permission to earn it. At this point, all the pieces begin connecting. A discounted room brings someone onto the property. A restaurant captures dinner spending. A concert gives the guest a reason to stay later. The casino floor converts part of that time into wagering activity. Drinks monetize another moment. Loyalty rewards make tomorrow's visit more likely. The resort is constantly trying to extend and deepen the economic relationship with the customer. And this is where I think the business becomes more interesting than the phrase casino suggests. The core inventory is not simply a hotel room or a seat at a blackjack table. It is customer time, inside an environment where multiple departments can turn that time into revenue. 1 hour in a room has one economic value. 1 hour in a restaurant has another. 1 hour on the gaming floor has another. The resort tries to connect them. That is the strength of the integrated model. A concert fills rooms. Hotel guests fill restaurants. Restaurant guests pass the casino floor. Casino customers earn rewards that encourage another trip. But this circular system also amplifies weakness. If traffic disappears, the same hotel, restaurants, venues, and casino floor are still sitting there. What looked like 5 revenue engines when full suddenly becomes 5 collections of fixed costs. So you want to own a casino. What are you actually buying? You are buying an enormous physical ecosystem with a mathematically favorable gaming engine sitting at its center. That engine is valuable. It can process staggering amounts of wagering activity under rules designed to produce positive expected economics for the operator. But ownership starts where the probability table ends. You have to persuade people to visit. You have to keep the rooms productive. You have to fill restaurants and venues. You have to decide how much a customer is worth before offering comps. You have to survive a bad run from large players. You have to manage payroll, compliance, taxes, debt in a building that keeps costing money at 3 in the morning, whether the floor is packed or quiet. Revel spent roughly $2.4 billion building a resort whose casino game still had a house edge when the property closed. That is why the phrase, "the house always wins," is both true and misleading. In the game, the house has the mathematical advantage. In the business, the owner has made a much larger wager. Before the first customer spins a wheel, rolls dice, or asks for chips, the owner has already bet on the location, the building, the debt, the brand, and millions of future visits. The players gamble one transaction at a time. The owner gambles on whether the entire machine deserves to exist. And that may be the largest bet in the building. If you want more breakdowns of businesses that make money very differently from the way they appear from the outside, subscribe. Because the most valuable part of a business is often the part customers never see.